Hello again, everyone. This is Rudolph Wilkins with Forgotten Fitness, and I have a confession to make. Now, this will probably come as no surprise to any of you that actually follow me, but I love training anything grip related, be it forearm strengthening exercises, finger strengthening exercises, or anything in between. It's one of the most satisfying types of training for me. Part of that is because I have very large hands and I've always had a pretty strong grip. So doing that has naturally been something I have enjoyed. Now today I actually found a really interesting training routine in one of the old Strength and Health magazines about how to strengthen the forearms by a guy that I think all of you are pretty familiar with at this time, Siegmund Klein. Now I know over the last couple of months he's actually been making the rounds on social media and whatnot for his incredibly impressive natural physique. In addition, he was also very strong, brutally strong in fact, and he is well known for his handstand push-ups and the ability to do these handstand push-ups even into older age. He always kept that strength in the hands and forearms, and these are some of the exercises that he actually used to strengthen his forearms. And not just him, guys like John Grimmick and a lot of the Silver Era bodybuilders performed very similar exercises to strengthen their forearms. Today we are going to talk about exercises using the wrist roller. I love the wrist roller. It's my favorite way to train forearms, and for a long time it was the only way that I would train forearms. I prefer it even to a barbell. That being said, I've actually broken up this routine into both wrist roller exercises and barbell exercises. I'm going to make it at least 2 parts, and this is part 1. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about these exercises, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But I hope you all enjoy this video, and do let me know what you think about these. There are certain exercises that you're probably familiar with, and others which were brand new to me, and I think it's worth showing them and demonstrating them all for you today, so I hope you enjoy. The program itself can be found on page 13, 14, and 39 of the May 1954 edition of Strength and Health magazine. Of all the muscles in the body, the forearms indicate strength first and foremost. This was a belief of many of the Silver Era guys and is continued to this day. This is because they are most often exposed in normal clothes. You see them every day, if you're in a t-shirt or even a long sleeve shirt when you roll up your sleeves. In spite of this, many young people neglect strengthening and developing their forearms. As Mr. Klein states here in the article, no physique will ever truly become impressive without forearm growth. Large biceps are simply out of place without the shoulders and forearms also developed. For an example of impressive forearm development during the Silver Era, look no further than the monarch of muscledom, John Grimmick, who is actually shown in this article and mentioned in great detail. Mr. Grimmick's forearms were not only impressively large, but also very well shaped. He attributes a significant portion of this development on a simple yet brutally effective tool, the wrist roller. Let's go over some of the exercises he and Siegmund Klein used to build their amazing forearms. The only piece of equipment you will need for all 3 of these exercises are a wrist roller and a plate. Really no more than a 10-pound plate for reasons we will get to. The 3 exercises are as follows. The first exercise is a pronated straight arm windup. The second is a supinated bent arm windup. And the third is what is called the screwdriver windup, which you rarely see done anymore, and is probably the most interesting of the 3. An important tip Mr. Klein gives out is that forearm growth relies on high repetitions, and he gives 2 different training protocols you can follow depending on the amount of exercises you are actually doing. If you're only doing 2 or 3 exercises, for example, if you were just doing exercises that are using wrist rollers in this routine, then you will complete 15 full repetitions, down and up, for each exercise 3 times as a series. If you are to actually do this, and do this with a significant amount of weight, this will probably take you 45 minutes to an hour, legitimately. If you were going to be doing all the exercises in this entire series, that includes the barbell exercises I will cover in the next video, you will complete 10 repetitions of each a single time in a series. So a little bit different, but the volume will come out to be about the same. And due to this, you really should think about this as being a workout. It's not a supplemental thing. You are training forearms whatever day you are dedicating to doing these exercises. Now I will go on to demonstrate these exercises for you. The first exercise here is the pronated straight arm windup. What this means is that your hands are actually turned over so that your radius is turned over your ulna and your palms are facing down. And as far as wind-up, this is a classic old-fashioned wrist roller exercise. To perform it, you simply hold the wrist roller away from your body, arms straight at the elbows, and then begin to wind up the weight that is attached via a string or a rope until it reaches the top, and then return the weight back down. The only difference here, and something that Siegmund Klein mentions that is really, really important, is to actually wind up in the opposite direction as well. And this is something I must admit I don't normally do. I will kind of follow in the same direction where I wind up either with the rope in front or behind the actual roller and then back down, and I'll just complete it that way sort of as a series. But here he wants you to actually wind up in the opposite direction as well, which you can actually see me doing. I'm winding up one direction with the rope in front of the wrist roller and then winding back down in that same direction, and then I'm rolling it up quite quickly to get out all the slack and then going in the opposite direction, so now the rope is behind the roller. This works different muscles in the hands and forearms, both the flexors and the extensors, the lumbricals, the adductor and abductor muscles. It's really a complete forearm movement and one of the best forearm exercises you can do. And I really like how he emphasizes the importance of doing it both directions. It's something I don't normally do and I found very helpful. Also, you want to keep the roller as parallel with the floor as possible. It's going to be impossible to keep it from actually wobbling all the way, one way or the other, but you want to keep it as flat as you can and really concentrate on extending and flexing the forearms and hands up and down. That way you can get that peak contraction, for lack of a better term, in the forearms. Now I will describe exercise number 2. Exercise number 2 is the supinated bent arm windup. It's a little different from what we previously did. Now instead of having the arms extended straight out, you're going to tuck them so that your elbows are by your side, and your arm should be making a 90-degree angle at the elbow. And now the hands are turned over so that the palms are actually facing the sky. Now, this is called the supinated position because your radius and ulna are not actually crossing each other. From here, you will do a similar thing to what we did before. You will now wind up in this opposite direction with the palms facing up towards the sky, and this is a much more difficult exercise in general. You also want to make sure that you're doing the same sort of thing we did with the previous exercise, in that you are winding back down. You are not just dropping the weight once you get to the top, and you are also winding up in the opposite direction. So you'll wind up with the rope in front of the roller and with the rope behind the roller. This is a very difficult exercise, and I totally understand if some of you need to lower the weight. I get it. This is not one that I was very used to, but it's a fantastic forearm burner and a great addition to this routine. Now we will move on to the final exercise, and by far the most interesting. Okay, and now we've come to the most interesting method, the screwdriver windup. What you're doing here is pretty similar to the other two in that you're still winding this weight up using the wrist roller, but now you have it so that you're essentially holding it like a long screwdriver. One hand will be in front of the other, and the weight will sort of be suspended in between both hands, and then you will wind up in one direction so that the weight comes all the way to the top, and then wind back down, and then as we did with the other two exercises, you will then wind it back up in the opposite direction. So the rope will be to your right side over the wrist roller for the first wind up, and then over the left for the second, or vice versa. It really doesn't matter. Another thing I think you could do that he doesn't mention here in the article, but I would recommend, would be do a couple reps where the left hand is in front and the right hand is back, and then a few reps the opposite way so that the right hand is up front and the left hand is in the back. I think it'll sort of even out and balance sort of the working load you were doing here. Also, I should mention that the arms are at a 90-degree angle, just as with exercise number 2. This was honestly my favorite exercise of the 3. I wasn't sure how I would feel about it, but I've never tried it before, and I absolutely felt an incredible burn. And Mr. Klein actually mentions how you will see very good results from this exercise in particular. And this is one of John Grimmick's favorites that people don't really talk about, but it is a great variation of the windup, and probably my favorite of the three that I have covered here today. But that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about any of these exercises or the routine itself, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And until next time, this is Forgotten Fitness signing out. Bye-bye.